To the mansion is where you was, vice versa to where you at now in life. And we have an important guest on here today that we want to celebrate today for the work that he do in our community. The Mud to the Mansion is also so we can bring people on here that sometimes don't get seen or recognized, and that people don't know about. And so it's a program for me, and so I really want him to introduce himself and tell y'all all about what he has going on.
Thanks so much, Ms. Sandra. So my name is Courtney Burgess. I am the director with Upstate Fatherhood Coalition here in Anderson, South Carolina, serving all of Anderson County at large. I'm just excited to be here on the Mud to Mansion. The name signifies a lot, and I think it's a representation of my life and what my life has looked like. And I love it for the sake of, we often look for the end result of wanting that mansion, and that home in the sky. But I think oftentimes we should be able to live out, the blessings of our lives here on earth. So God has really allowed for that here in Anderson County. So my organization, Upstate Fatherhood Coalition, is a nonprofit organization. We primarily provide assistance and services to fathers, all free of charge. We literally are writing grants all day, federal, state funding, local funding, that allows us to be able to serve fathers at no cost. I typically tell any one person all we need is their commitment. We don't need not even a penny. And so in Anderson County, we serve 200 plus fathers in 1 year.
Wow.
Pickens and Oconee County also falls under my office as well. So we are also slated to serve about 200 plus fathers in those other counties as well. So it's an opportunity, it's an avenue to be able to reach fathers.
Yes.
Because when you think about Mud to Mansion, I think one of the promises of God, he talks about it in Malachi 4 and 6, that he would turn the hearts of fathers to their children and turn the hearts of children back to their fathers. Right. So I think that's the essence of this work right here, and allowing people to know this is ministry, just like what you're doing here. This is ministry.
It is, and it's so important because our men as our leaders. Mm-hmm. Our children need their fathers.
Absolutely.
Us women need our men, and our men need help.
Absolutely.
And so when I found out about it, I was like, wow, I don't really know that much of it. I don't, And I said, because there's so many young men out here that are fighting and want stuff for their children, but they don't have the money to get a lawyer and do all these different things. And so your program walks them through that and helps them to do all that. Even in court, you stand in court with them and walk them through the whole process. And another thing as about Mud to the Mansion is the process. People don't understand the process, what you had to go through, even in life, to even get to the place you are now. And we like to look at the end result, but or the middle. And I was telling them earlier, God told me, don't despise small beginnings, because it's not where you're at, it's where He's taking you. It's not where you start, it's where you end. And you're so well put together. I can see the excellence, the spirit of excellence on you. And so tell us, how did you birth this program for men, and what made your heart want to do something for men? So
I'll say that I'm over here, I'm lighting up. Like, you probably see me smiling a mile a minute, because I'm like, she's talking all about my life. That's don't despise small beginnings, and where I started out, which doesn't look like this. And so Upstate Fatherhood Coalition is not an inception of an idea that came about through me. God just divinely orchestrated for me to be a part of this organization. This organization has been around since 1998, almost 25 plus years. The founder and CEO, his name is Kelly Walker. We have a flagship site that is located in Greenville, South Carolina. We have an office that we've expanded into in Spartanburg County as well. And Anderson County is the newest development of fatherhood programs in the state of South Carolina and in the upstate region of South Carolina itself. So organization wide, we serve about 800 plus fathers in 1 year. My office serves 200. So you were like, all right, well, how did you get here? But to mention.
Right.
So I graduated from undergrad, from college, and you can imagine graduating from college,
right.
Everything should be smooth sailing.
Yeah, right.
And I applied for literally over 75 to 100 federal government jobs in Washington, D.C. and got no interviews for any. Wow. And so for 3 whole years, I tell this story to every one father that walks through my door. I think I've mentioned it to all my staff. For 3 whole years, I was in one of the darkest phases of my life. Like, I completely thought that God didn't hear me. He didn't, he wasn't listening to me. He just turned his ear against me. And in that moment, I'll never forget, both my parents are actually ministers. And so every Sunday in my church is like when you sick or anything, you go to church.
That's right.
So this particular Sunday, I wasn't feeling it. I had been consecutively going to church every single Sunday. And I'll never forget, after I had just gotten that between a rock and a hard place, and I was like, all right, nothing is happening. And every morning my dad would wake up and like, hey, have you heard anything from any of the jobs? My mom was like, hey, has anything transpired? Nothing came about. And so this particular Sunday, my mom, she woke me up. She's like, hey, we're getting ready for church. We're going to leave out around this time. I typically would ride with them. But this particular Sunday, I literally stayed in bed. And my intention was not to go to church that Sunday. And my dad came in the room next and he was like, hey, I didn't hear you moving around. He said, you'll be ready by the time we get ready to leave. I said, I'm not going to church today. He took a step back and he was like, you're not going to church today. And then he left. He came back and he said, Courtney, he said, I'm a little surprised. He said, because that's not like you. And I said, yeah, I know. I said, but this time I just need to do something different. My parents left and they went to church. But I knew in my mind, what I kept remembering was I went to church every Sunday and I was hearing from my pastor who was prophetically speaking in my life. I was hearing from my mother and my father who were ministers who were speaking in my life. And I'm like, nothing is transpiring. Everybody is giving me all these motivational, inspirational words, all these prophetic words, and I see nothing happening. And sure enough, when my parents left, I went back in my bedroom, I closed my door, I got on my knees and I prayed to God. I said something had to be different. I didn't want to hear from anybody else different. I got on my knees and I literally pleaded to God and I told him, I said, I need to hear from you today. Well, lo and behold, before I even started that particular prayer, I had already started a daily devotion. I was doing like a 6-month daily devotion where I was just randomly going in my Bible and I was reading. And when I would get up, and I would write down notes in my journal, I would ask God throughout the day to give me revelation. Right. Well, after I finished my prayer, I literally cried. I plead, and I petitioned to God like, I need an answer today about what your plans are for my life. I went to the dining table, and instantly when I went to the dining table, I just put the Bible on the table, and it flipped open to what is it? Oh, geez. For I know the plans I have for you, declare the Lord. Plan to not hurt you, but to prosper to you, to give you hope in a future. I never heard that verse ever before in my life, but the Bible literally fell open to that. And I knew instantly that was my daily devotion for the day. And I asked God to give me revelation. But what God was also doing was he was speaking to me. He was letting me know that he had a hope in the future for my life. Someone told me about Upstate Fatherhood Coalition 4 times. The first 3 times I turned it down because I was prepping for med school. And I'll never forget my brother's wife. She came to me and she said, God said he's going to give you everything that you want. He's going to allow med school to happen. He's going to open up that door for you and everything. They flew me out. My mentor had me flown out to Wayne State University School of Medicine in Detroit, Michigan, because they wanted to interview with me. When I interviewed, they said that we are not concerned with your med school interview. All we need is your test scores. So I got a conditional acceptance to med school. God allowed that to happen, only for God to then turn around and is like, all right, I gave you everything you want. It's all on the table. Now, what do you select?
I want.
So I literally prayed to God, and after I prayed to God, I told God, I said, whatever your plans are for my life, if this is it, I won't make any other consideration. And that was a hard place to tell God.
Yes, it is.
For somebody that was in a place of deprivation and in a desert moment of not having, at that point when you come out, you want everything. Desert moment. So I was literally hoping for everything, and God was just like, you know what? I told God, I said, I won't make any consideration. I wanted school. I won't make any consideration. I wanted a well-paying job. I won't make any consideration. I wanted the house, the car. I wanted to be in a desirable state and also city that I wanted to live in. But I told God I wouldn't make any other consideration. And sure enough, Miss Andrea, I won't tell you any lie. When someone told me about fatherhood the last time, I decided to take the opportunity. I said, God, if you allow it to happen, won't make any consideration. I got to the interview in Greenville.
This is a test.
And instantly when I got to the interview, they told me. But I'll never forget, God spoke to me. I never forget, God spoke to me, and God would always speak to me through a word, one singular word.
Yeah.
He spoke to me and he said, dispensation. I said, God, what are you telling me? Like, give me revelation. So when I looked at what dispensation means, it means an unusual form. God was already telling me the essence of what my life is going to look like was, jeez. Because I remember that dark place.
And I feel as Holy
So,
Spirit.
like, when I got in that moment,
Jesus, we thank you, God.
God was telling me, like, you're not a father. And all the ways that you could be discredited, you would not line up for what it is that I'm sending you into. I'm going to allow it to be a dispensation. And sure enough, I told him, I said, well, I'm not from here, but I plan to drive to Anderson to check out the area, to look for apartments, to look for houses, all of that, so I can consider the opportunity. Right. They emailed me back about a week, 2 weeks later, and said, hey, you've been selected for the opportunity. I applied against 3 other candidates that had 5 years of experience. They had master's degrees, and here I was with no years of experience and just a bachelor's degree, just graduated from college. But it was divinely orchestrated that God needed me here.
Right there.
Needed me here.
Divinely.
So on my 1-year anniversary with Upstate Fatherhood Coalition, I'll never forget, I live in Greenville, but I work here. My office is here in Anderson. I stopped into the flagship office in Greenville, and the founder and CEO, when I walked in through the back door, he said, I was just talking about you. I said, oh yeah? He said, yeah. He said, I was just telling the director for the Greenville office that I'm going to appoint you as the director for the Anderson office in 1 year, on my year anniversary. So when you got to understand divine timing, sometimes we despise those small beginnings, because when I drove to Anderson, where my office is located now is a 5,000 square feet office space, prime real estate. Where we started out was Westside Community Center, was an old high school that was refurbished into office space. Mm-hmm. Half of my office was literally probably about 300 square feet. Now I'm in 5,000 square feet. Then we served about 5 to 10 fathers. Now we're serving 200 plus fathers. And I don't have kids. I'm not a father. But when I pray to God, God was just like, they will be receptive. Every father that walks through your door will be receptive. And I remember what's surprising about the Upstate Fatherhood Coalition and fatherhood programs in the state of South Carolina is it's a statewide initiative. So what a father can get in my office in Anderson, they can get in Columbia, South Carolina. They can get in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. They can get in Lancaster, South Carolina. They can get in any region and county in the state.
This is amazing.
So I would go to statewide fatherhood meetings with all the directors and CEOs, and they would tell me that we exceeded our targets by 110% in Anderson. Because at that point, 82% of the fathers that were enrolled in my office were voluntarily enrolled. DSS didn't require them, a judge didn't order them, but they were wondering, they were asking me, why are fathers showing up there? What are y'all doing in Anderson? And I would tell every staff that I would hire, I said, this is a treasured place. And the purpose, the promise, the plan, and the covenant that God has for fathers in Anderson County.
Come on now.
I can't say that is different any other county in the state of South Carolina. But I know for any other father that watches this video, that sees it, it is divinely orchestrated that you have someone that could bolster your work, your efforts as a father,
help you
and,
with your children.
Covenant.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I was so excited about him. I'm sorry, y'all. With my thing, I'm a pastor, and this is your name. I mess it up.
Xavier Smith.
Xavier Smith, and I come to know. I got to meet him through this young man. He is he is also a pillar to the community. He do a lot of work with the fatherhood, and he can tell you some things, and he can tell you more about him, his leader as well. So tell us about you and tell us what you do.
I'm in tears too now.
I know,
so don't mind me, because that was deep. So again, my name is Xavier Smith. I'm excited to be here too, as well. And again, Mud to Mansion. I want to elaborate on that too. Is a place where you want to be,
right?
And not where you need to be. And I will say, just getting into this work, my anniversary was November the 4th. And it's been 4 years.
Wow.
It's literally
amazing.
been 4 years at Upstate Fatherhood
Amazing.
Coalition. But I will say hats off to my supervisor, Mr. Burgess, man, for bringing me on board 4 years ago. And I will say this opportunity was not landed by my option or my choice. Again, this was a God-fearing move for me, especially coming out of manufacturing work. I knew what that lifestyle looked like with working in manufacturing, and it's cool to have all the money and doing all the things that you wanted to do. But I was like, hey, I graduated from a HBCU school in Sumter, South Carolina. And me and Mr. Burgess, we always battle about this thing with South Carolina State and Morris College, but it's all love at the end of the day. We all unified. But I will say, my opportunities of working with Upstate Fatherhood came through another pillar in the community as well, Mr. Don Peppers. Hopefully Mr. Don Peppers is watching this video. He's a great guy. He's actually my mentor as of now, 5 years speaking later. And I will say how it all started was I was getting into mentorship, of course. That's what I'm doing as of right now. A mentor, active mentor. With my own business, Kind Mentoring. We kind of was talking about some nonprofit work, and we were just in the community chatting one day, and I remember that me and him met up for lunch, and he was like, hey, I got someone to talk to. I was like, man, please don't connect me with somebody. This just gonna be another connection, and then we just like disconnect from each other. So I remember we was at the old location at 907. We was just kind of out and about, and he was like, man, I need you to meet Mr. Courtney Burgess. And I was like, okay. Never heard of him. So I remember we went up to the office space, went up the stairs, and I remember Mr. Peppers, he was telling me, he was like, man, he was like, I know you were talking about law enforcement, because that was my degree was in criminal justice. So he's like, I know that you were saying something about, getting into law enforcement, but he was like, maybe check out the social service public sector side of life. And I was like, I don't know anything about nonprofit work. I was like, man, let me just find out what it's about. So I remember I came up, and I remember I rang the bell, and we had one of his staffs at that time that came out, came and saw me, put me in the waiting area, and I was like, man, I was thinking about it. I was like, man, this might not even be for me. Given that, I'm young. Right. I'm young, literally. I'm just young. I'm literally like 23, 24 at that time. And I was just like, I don't have no experience as well. I don't have any case management skills, any of that. Yeah. So I was just like, trying to get in this type of work and trying to, put myself in position to do better in life. I was like, man, maybe this might be. So I went to meet with Mr. Burgess. We kind of talk about some nonprofit things, and we were just discussing about what it's gonna take for me to get my business off the ground and so forth. So we were sitting in that chat, and then like I don't know where his heart led from there. He was just like, man, you know what? We got a vacant open. He was like, I'm gonna let you look at it. He was like, you tell me what you think. Get back with me. So when I looked at the paper, I was like, man, I have none of these requirements. None.
Wow.
None. So
that's how God set you up.
And I was just like, so I went home. I remember I had went home. I was like, man, I said, God, what are you really trying to tell me? I was like, is this it? I say, is this really the move? So when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take that leap of faith now. I say, I'm gonna take it. So I contacted Mr. Burgess. I was like, you know what? I say I'm open to it. I was like, what all I got to do? So we kind of talked through some things regarding resume, cleaning up my resume, all that good stuff. And I remember when I went to work, when I went back to my manufacturing job, I was like, you know what, this is it for me. So I put in my 2-week notice ASAP. I wasn't even playing with them because I was tired of that. I had a degree. I literally had a degree, and I say I'm just sitting in here trying to compete with other people that's gonna do this thing for almost 30 to 40 more years, and then I got something and I can make use of it.
Right.
So I was just like, man, putting in my 2-week notice, and during that time of my 2-week notice, I cut it down to a week. So I cut it down to a week. I ended up leaving on a Friday. I called Mr. Burgess. I cleaned up my stuff. He hired me then, just like that. That's when the new life started for me.
And I gotta say this: your passion for this program is why I had to interview y'all, because I've talked to him for the past probably 6-7 months about, and even told him about my son, and I mean, I was like, hey, come on, because he always come up here and eat lunch up here in the mall, and I'll be like, hey, I said, and twice I lost the number. I was like, oh Lord, I'm so busy. I'm like, and I told Minister DeAndre, I said, you gonna have to do this, because you know how I'm so busy. So to get in touch, because this young man probably think I'm just talking, but I just can't get this stuff lined up because I got so much stuff going on. And I told her, I said, let's just try. She said, okay. And so he really loves what he do. His heart is really in it, and he really respects you and holds you to high esteem. And that's one thing that you have to have. When a person will celebrate you publicly, they will, where their heart is at, even privately. He always talks about this program and what y'all do, and evidently he's had to see a change in people's lives, in young men's lives, with being able to be with their kids, with being able to be, because some of them, I've seen, and no disrespect, but I got to be real about it. I've seen men be paying for kids that ain't even theirs, and I've seen people, and I've seen them be paying, and they don't even have money to pay their bills. And I've seen some that don't do nothing, that just get away, and you get some that do, and they just get nailed to the wall. And I'm just, and some of it come because of heartbreak or relationship and matters that have nothing to do with the children. And so that's why this was so much needed, because I got 3 sons, but then I'm a mother of 3, and they dads wasn't like that, but they dads, just like I told my oldest son, I said, sometimes in life, a person's best is nothing. And sometimes we have to accept that. Sometimes in people's lives, in certain walks of our life, it's been times in my life I had nothing to give because I had given all out. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't have, I might have been sitting there with them, but didn't have nothing else to give. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's one thing about the Mud to the Mansion, because the Mud to the Mansion talks about the process, like that dark place, because it's that valley experience that takes you to the hill. You can't have that without this.
And can I also say the huge essence of it is that was the opportunity that I know in that 3 years is where the oil was and the anointing was applied.
Come on now.
And so when people, and my staff will tell you, there is nothing that I would ask them to do that I wouldn't do. Right. I was in my office this morning at 7:35 this morning, literally cleaning bathrooms, vacuuming, doing all of that.
That's right.
And people see me pulled in, so they see me going to court here, they see me representing the Father here, they see me sitting on boards and all these other committees. And he stopped and he asked me one day, and I appreciated him for it, because he asked me, he said, how are you? Like, no, really, like, how are you mentally? He said, because man, he said, I see you. I know how busy you are because I'm in the office every single day. And he said, like, are you good? Like when you leave here? And I share with
that's
him.
somebody that care about you.
Yes. And that's why I understand, like, God would divinely orchestrate moments like that when you have people that are on your behalf making intercession for you. And so what I did was I shared with him something my dad told me before I started this opportunity. He said, Courtney, he said, the will of God should never overwhelm you, but you should overtake it.
You better say that.
And instantly, I knew that regardless how much of an undertaking I had to take on, I was like, I cannot be overwhelmed by any of this. So every day I leave from my office, I'm fulfilled. I sleep good at night, honestly, and I'm in a really good place in my life where I know God has me protected. Right. I'm blessed,
because your purpose is your passion.
It is.
It makes you pursue it effortless because it's something you love. It's not work because it's a gift. It's what God called you to do.
Can I help you?
Yes.
So you talked about purpose, right? I love this. So you talked about purpose. So this is what my dad does, because we're talking about fatherhood, right? Yes. And I can be completely transparent, and I tell every single father that we serve. So my father had competing responsibilities that pulled him out of the life of his family for a couple of years. And I have 4 other siblings, and my mother and my father have been married for 43 years. And I'll never forget when my father got pulled out of our life for a couple of years. Every night, my mom would literally have each of us hover around their bedside. We would interlock hands, and she would tell us, pray for what you want. At 7 years old, I am 37 years old. At 7, I still vividly remember at 7 years old, I used to fervently pray for my father to be I knew what the essence and the impact that my father would have in my life, and my father was there. Now let me help you understand Mud to Mansion.
Come on.
Because what you have, what you're doing here is amazing, because I was first generation. When my father I have 3 older siblings now.
You said something right there.
My sister didn't graduate from high school. My 2 elder brothers didn't graduate from high school. I was the first to graduate because my prayers made intercession for me.
That's right. They go before you.
I was the first to go to graduate and go to college and graduate from college. I was the first to break into glass ceilings, into my career and everything. So nobody has seen life through me. Yes, he did. Now, keep in mind, my dad's father died when he was 12 years old. So there was already a void there.
Yes, it was.
That God was just like, all right. And I'll never forget, he told me, he said, you will be the example. That's the one thing God told me. He said, you will be the example. And I kept looking like, God, what do you mean I'll be the example? Because when you're the example, it's never what you think it's going to look like. And sometimes it's not even easy.
It's not. It's like Joseph.
Was like,
it's not at all.
He was like, first to graduate.
Because you will be despised, even within the house. Yes.
First to literally high school, college, all of that. And God's like, you're the example. So why can't you go everywhere else? And why can't that same mantle that rests on your life be the very same thing that you are calling people? You're able to speak to your nation. You're able to speak to your nation now of people who don't know that they are called to be the example. They're called to literally to literally draw the line in the sand of father absenteeism. We show the video with Ray Lewis every single day. Xavier tell you, Ray Lewis, who was an NFL football player, his family dealt with almost 5 to 7 years of father absenteeism, of their fathers not being there. It's a video on YouTube called E60. E60.
We got to pull it up. We got to watch that.
And that's the essence of it. So, I completely understand. This is a God thing.
Yes, yeah.
This is a God thing, and I could have, and it's crazy that the enemy could have made every other way that I could have gone look way more appeasing to me. But this place right here has been what's been good for my soul.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
And spiritually, so much has been birthed in this place. I tell people all the time. Yes. I came to this place and I opened my own mediation firm. And so I help fathers and families establish civil and also family visitation orders.
Is you serious?
That would be formal written orders that they can petition to the court and the judge can make an order to the court. I came here. I have a public speaking company. I do mentorship. I do all of these etiquette sessions. Like, God birthed all of that here in the place that I could have easily said no to.
And the thing is this, what we have to understand as kingdom, as his kingdom ambassadors, it is our job. It is he gave us the authority to do what you're doing now. You're walking in the authority that God has given you. And that's what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
We're supposed to take whatever, we're supposed to take that brick and turn it into a platform.
Yeah.
We're supposed to, we don't supposed to rent it, we're supposed to own it. You know, because that's God called us to do so.
Yeah.
We're the body of Christ is the most powerful, intimate in this world.
Yes.
We are. And you're operating in your full potential.
Yeah.
So by grace.
Yes. Oh,
I have to say, when they say, how you, they say, how you go in the restaurant and cook all that food and run the whole store by yourself and cook all day and then close out and then I leave there and come in and do prayer. Then I go, and my schedule is crazy and there's hardly no day, but one day I can kind of rest and be like, okay. And they say, how do you, and I say, I do it effortlessly because it's just what he called me to do. It's not work to me. I'm called to it. It's what he is. He said before you was in your mother's womb, because your first birth was your spiritual birth, not your flesh birth. He said, so before you was in your mother's womb, I ordained you as a prophet unto this nation to go forth and subdue. And when God's hand is on you, it ain't nothing nobody can do. It's nothing.
So can I tell you? Yes. You talked about purpose. And the call, I'll never forget, my dad would always take a notepad, and I remember he told me, like, my dad, he's a elder now in the church, and he's one of the ones that has imparted spiritually in my life, that has made me want to cultivate a relationship with God. So I understood the work that God had to do in him, so he understood the bigger picture even with me and my siblings. But my dad would always say that he felt like he got to a point in his life where God was speaking to him prophetically in his dreams. So he said he would take a notepad and he would sit by his nightstand, and he said when God would speak something to him in his dream, he said he would wake up in the middle of the night, he would write it down, because he understood that the enemy was trying to take
it.
That.
That's it.
And I'll never forget, my dad was casually telling my mother and us this in the living room, and it was like cemented here. June 2021, I'll never forget. It was a Saturday morning. I was asleep. I was in a deep sleep. All I know, in my sleep, I heard the Spirit speaking to me saying, and kept repeating this, saying, your body is a temple, keep it clean as it is used to edify. Your body is a temple, keep it clean as it is used to edify. I know God was speaking to me. I woke up out of my sleep. I was in a deep sleep, woke up out of my sleep, and I was crying tears. I was repeating the same thing when I woke up, that God was speaking to me, and I literally said, I gotta write this down like my dad does, so I don't forget it. I went to my notepad on my iPhone and I wrote down, your body's a temple, keep it clean as used to edify. So I started saying, God, give me revelation of what you're telling me. What is you telling me? I went and I looked up edification, right? And what edify means is to instruct one morally, to impart in one morally, and to instruct educationally. Come on. Now let's go back to me being the first,
right? High
school, college. And I was always wondering, like, God, you allow me to really break into this intellectual realm. What is the plans for it? He was telling me then in June 2021, years later after I graduated from college, but it took me being in this particular place. Come on now. Your body's a temple, keep it clean as used to edify. And he was telling me, you are going to allow to impart morality and people, telling people what's right and doing what's right, but you're also going to be able to instruct them intellectually. That's why the dispensation had to look different. So now I get in this place and I'm like, okay, God, I understand. But then that was God allowing me to know my divine purpose.
Come on.
And then now I understand now my spiritual purpose, which is a transcendence way above self-actualization. Like, and that's only something that God can bring. So I didn't know that I had these mantles on my life.
Okay.
So I had a couple of people that prophetically spoke in my life, and this one guy told me, he said, you have a forfeited mantle. Because we still talking about fatherhood, right?
Yes, come on. We still talking about fatherhood.
He told me, he said, you have a forfeited mantle. He said, and if you want to know what a forfeited mantle is, he said, it's a mantle that your forefathers should have
Come
picked
on.
up and they didn't.
That's
He
it.
said, but because they didn't, God said that you have no choice but to pick it up and operate in that mantle. What is that mantle? Well, it's the very same thing that we're talking about as to why I'm here. God called me into an administrative level position. If you know anything about an administrative level position, it has everything to do with the prophetic. You know, there's offices in the church in the body of Christ.
Say it.
So God was calling me into the administrative because he was allowing me to know I now have the autonomy. I have the power to be able to call function to fathers, to men as leaders. I also have the autonomy and the power to be able to call function to families because of what I experienced. So God is telling me all these different things. And I'm like, okay, so that now it makes sense why there's a gravitational pull and force on my organization here in Anderson, and why fathers are literally just running to us. Because I have the ability to be able to prophetically speak. And I'll never forget, I went to a prophetic conference, and this lady, she spoke to me, and she said that there is nothing that happens in the life of a prophet that is not prophetic.
That's true.
So I look at it, I'm like, I dealt with father absenteeism. So prophetically, I can speak.
Yes, you can.
I can speak to the very thing. The wiles of these things that are happening in our community that are plaguing our families and culturally and socially and so on and so forth. So now I understand it. I just look at everything that goes in my life and I'm like, okay, God, there's nothing that happens in the life of a prophet that is not prophetic.
And one of the things I prayed for decades is, God, please put our men back in their rightful place. Send somebody to help our men. And the reason why we got so many men in prison is because they didn't have a father. Because of single mother homes or single kids need a mother and they need a father. But father brings a structure that a woman cannot bring.
So much of a contributor.
I raised my children, my boys by myself, and he was like, "You did a good job, yeah." But if I had a man like Henry Cowens was really older man that guided my oldest two. Really, my middle son, he his business and how he handle money, everything come from Henry Cowens. Henry Cowens adopted and raised. He raised so many kids in Anderson, and after he passed away, he helped raise me, my children. After he passed away, I found out he raised over 60 years of people's children. Just one of them type of men, that. I would go in his house and say, "Sisters, I'm going to do this to so-and-so." He'd say, "Baby, pray about it." I said, "You always tell me I pray about something."
Yeah.
I'm telling you what I'm going to go do. And he said, "Baby, pray about it. You got them kids, pray." And I never forget the Lord told me. Henry seen me do some things, when I was in the mud. And I remember going back having to take care of him. Before he passed, I was holding his hand when he took his last breath. And the Lord said to me, he said, "You didn't pay attention to the prayer, but the prayer paid attention to you." I didn't have a family to pray me in. So God used him to bring the mantle back to me of what, because the mantle I operated out of is the mantle my father's supposed to operate out of. And so I know that now. I couldn't understand it then. And even when my daddy would talk to me prophetically, I was 12 years old. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know God. Then, years later, God took me back to, I'm standing there at 12 and my daddy's in his wheelchair sitting in the yard. And my daddy said, I said, "Why are you blind? I had a stroke in your right side paralyzed. Why this, why that, why that?" And my daddy said, "If I knew what I know now back then, it would be different." He said, "When I was younger, I used to work for a blind man. I used to steal from him." My daddy said, "In this life, Sandra, always sow good seeds, because you're going to reap what you sow."
Yes.
And I'm not 12, I don't know, I don't really know what I'm talking about. And later on, God let me capture it and redeem the time for me. He said, "Now, Sandra, I need you to take this, what your daddy gave you at 12, and I need you to redeem the time." He said, "So you treat people the way you want to be treated. And you make good decisions, and love people." And so and I called back everything they lost back into my life, even from the field. Cause my daddy was a slave, my grandmama was a slave. I called it back. You know what I'm saying? So to to sit here and I remember when my father started transitioning, it was devastating for me. Because then I started looking for a father in a man, because I no longer had my father figure, and so it spiraled into other things. So for God to use you and the mantle that He put on you to help prophetically bring men back to purpose, back to destiny, back to their authentic, who God authentically called them to be, not the person they made because of the situations we in, but who they really supposed to be to their children. Because if you got a healed daddy, you got a healed child. And so this is, people might not understand, but this is major. This is really major.
Is, it's fighting against warfare, and just in all regard, mental, because that's where it starts for a lot of us. It's mental, and then it leads to a heart posture that many of them take on. And from a formal perspective, they give it the narrative attachment styles and detachment styles and adverse childhood experiences, which in other words is classified as trauma. But in the spiritual realm, we know that it is nothing but spiritual warfare with the mind.
That's it.
I tell fathers, when you're walking through the threshold of this door, you got to understand the culmination of what you're walking into. That we're literally like, but here's the crazy part, oftentimes, and that's why I just, even in this moment, I'm literally honored that God chose me and chose Mr. Smith and
Mr.
everybody
Smith
else that
amazing.
works with our organization, because when you think about it, we are the ones that are standing in the gap. But I typically tell people, when you think about, but you gotta know how to contend. And it's almost as if, like, why would someone in a heavyweight class contend with someone in a different weight class?
Right.
So God is purposely putting people in positions where He know they can contend and they can speak to it and they can call it down and
they
have
can
it
move
dismantled.
That's right.
Right. So I knew ultimately altogether, like even with bringing Mr. Smith on board, you talked about the honor he has for me.
Yes.
But one of the biggest things I tell him, like, I respect him.
Yes.
Because I'm not from Anderson,
Right.
But when I came here, this place right here made me feel like home. Just working here from a 9 to 5. But he was someone that I never knew that was in the community. And he'll tell you I'm really intentional. When I have a vacancy open, I'm looking for people in the community that's already doing the work.
Right.
People, and oftentimes people that want a hand up.
Right.
But I tell people all the time, you got to be committed. Because he'll tell you, he knows I'm a stickler about a lot of things. And I appreciate you was able to recognize just the spirit of excellence.
Yeah.
And I don't brag and boast in it, but that was a place that I've often prayed in God, because I realized a lot of people sometimes when God calls us to steward a thing, we never do it in excellence.
Right.
And so I'll stay on my staff about timeliness. I stay on them about just making sure that you are taking initiative. And so there's never been times where he'll tell you it hadn't always been like, the best of the best.
Right.
But I instantly, when I brought him in, the one thing I always say, he's always remained teachable.
Yeah. I can see that
Always.
That's one thing when I see him, you cannot not see him and not see humility.
Yes.
His and humility is what God uses.
Yeah.
If you humble, God can take you anywhere.
Yeah.
Humility is when you got humility, baby, you got something.
Yeah.
And that rest is on him.
Yes,
one thing I like about when I see him. I say he's just so humble. He has humility.
Very.
Yeah.
He'll have his moment, and it'll be self-check moments, and that's why I love it. He'll come in like, you know what, like, man, just tell me what I got. Like, help me out. And that's one of the things I like about this particular space that we're in, is that as young black men, we find ourselves looking out for one another. Culturally speaking,
right.
We already got strikes against us.
Right.
But we realize more than anything, we have to be the ones
they help each other,
safeguarding each
right.
other, steering each other in the right way. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
one thing I learned from him is his favorite line: presentation is everything.
It is.
Wow.
Everything.
He'll tell you about it. Presentation is everything. So I done picked up his habits.
Right. I know I've always, that's one of my things.
I done picked up them habits.
I asked God, I said, Lord, let me do things in excellence. And And sometimes I know I get on their nerves. I be like, I want it like that. I want to do it like this. And can we do it like this? Can we do it better than that? Can we? And another thing about me, I'm a finisher.
Yes,
I'm gonna finish whatever I gotta finish it, and I'm not gonna stop till it's finished. And and that's just something God put in me. It's not nothing ain't nothing I can boast or brag about or nothing. It's just my nature, and even I see it in my in a couple of my children. They're gonna finish, and I can even see that in y'all. You finishers, okay? I'm gonna see it all the way to the end till you through with it. And you got to have that, and you got to have that even in the start when it's rocky, even in the middle when it ain't looking too good, and all the way to the end. And so I want to tell y'all, I really appreciate y'all. I am so proud of the work that y'all are doing for our men. I'm decreeing and declaring that God continue to multiply more of you with the same spirit and with excellence to this thing go out throughout the nation to help us, God, get our men back and get our men back in our children's lives and change our families. Because if we got a healthy father and we got a healthy mother, we got a healthy family.
Yes.
And so I'm really, really, that's one of my major goals community-wise is I got programs that God has set up for me to do that will help with families, and one of the strong things that I've always prayed about, interceded about, is I'm always interceding on the behalf of our men, because when we lost them, we lost everything. When men get back, when we allow men to get back in there, put them back in their rightful place, things can come kind of back to normal, if that makes sense. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Some of the things I can say that makes it obvious that fathers do not have a seat at the table. A lot of societal ills we already see and we know of. Early parenthood or early teen pregnancy is an indication that a father is not in the presence of his family. When you talk about substance abuse or kids being incarcerated or dealing with juvenile justice system, at 13 years old and being tried as adults at 17 years old in the state of South Carolina because of the legislation and law now. When you see kids having behavioral and temperamental issues in schools, when you see mothers living in impoverished communities where it's crime infested, drug infested, and a lot of the places that they have no place but to choose to go that are government assistance funded are typically the places that they consider the ghetto. They don't have good school systems. School systems is another essence.
And they took all our schools out of our communities and forced our property to go down. I mean, it's really a bit of mess. We got a lot of work to do, really, honestly. Yeah, we do
a lot of work.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, but I thank God for the work that's going on now. That's been done. Yeah.
Well, I know one of the things I know is that this is an opportunity for us to double down. I think anytime God's allowed for an avenue for us to reach a different, audience, it's an opportunity for us to petition those that are watching that God hadn't forgotten about you at all. And some people hear the formal things of what we do, like comprehensive parenting, healthy relationship classes, parenting, economic mobility, and also health and wellness. But in that we can help you establish a visitation order where you can, by law, you have a law-binding order until that child is 18 years old, that the judge says that you can see that child when the mother doesn't want to cooperate, or if the father doesn't want to cooperate and he's considered the custodial parent. Because a lot of them don't. I used to be offended when I hear the word ignorance, but all ignorance is when you don't know.
No, that's all it is.
And so that's one of the things I'm realizing.
God said we perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes, so many of them are going off of hearsay and opinions, but in my space, here's my theme in my office. I tell my staff, every single one that I hire, I say I want this to be a place where we undo culture.
God, that's good.
Why? Because culture is so invasive and pervasive in our homes and in our communities that are already not the best.
Right.
So now when you get an opportunity to come into a space that doesn't culturally look like or sound like what you're accustomed to, we get to undo some things.
Yes.
Now we can undo some trauma, we can undo some hurt, some bitterness, some resentment.
Right.
We can undo all those things. The mental games and mind games where you psych yourself into thinking that it can never turn around. You can
Right.
never get your family back. You can never see your daughter. You can never see your son. You can never repair and reconcile that relationship. And all of that happens there. So they look at the formality of all of that and it's like, no, it's the informal part of all of what you're gonna get. This is a divine place that God has orchestrated for you to be in.
It truly is. It truly is.
Orchestrated.
What you just said, I was like, oh, he talking my life. Because when my father, he was old. When my mom married him, I think my mom was 18. My dad was like 63. And when my dad got older, you know, he was an amazing father. But as he started transitioning, I'm young. And so now I don't have a father. And so everything that you just said, teen pregnancy, everything. And I wasn't promiscuous, didn't like boys. I climbed trees, fight boys. But I used to keep little babies. And then when my mom and dad separated and my dad was no longer could be the father to me that I wanted, then I was like, well, I know how much I love them. If I had a baby, that baby would love me. Not even knowing at a 12-year-old mindset. It's more to taking care of a baby than you just having a baby.
Yes. Yeah. He can
And
tell
nobody's here to help you. You don't have a mother. You ain't got a mama. You ain't got a daddy to help you right now. You just out here, and it was,
those statistics,
it's real. And to even experience what I've experienced, and because I've already been through the mud, from the mud to the mansion, in the spirit. To experience all these things and still standing is nothing but the grace of God, and still have a right mind, because God had to go back and tear down them strongholds.
Yes.
And show me the dysfunction that was in my home, and show me the dysfunction, the mental dysfunction that I had from the verbal and physical abuse, from bad relationships, from bad choices that I made, from allowing people to come in my life that I shouldn't have, because we have a tendency when we broken to try to help people that's broken when we already tore up ourselves and need help, and then we end up getting hurt more, or even end up wounding them more than they were before. And so, you know, it's just a cycle.
Yes, it is.
And so now that, you know, now that I can see these things, and I'm like, God, and you know, and people are sitting up in families because all they know is dysfunction. When they go and sit at a normal house, they're like, what's this? Well, wait a minute. Nobody ain't cussing nobody out. Nobody ain't yelling. They ain't screaming. They helping them with their homework. They got manners. Everything is on. Everything is working. You know what I mean? I mean, it's something. I'm like, wow, God. I mean, because I've truly lived through it all, and I knew, even as a kid, not being able to be a kid, not being able to be a teenager, having to be an adult, because I've got these babies. I still knew in my heart. Even though they couldn't do nothing, even when they stopped by and they give them $1, they say, Dad gave me $1. I got to see Dad. I'm like, good. I never told my kids. My boys will tell you this, I never talked down to them about their father. Even when they didn't do or didn't come around. Whenever they got their little moment that they walked past, and one of them stayed down the street, it would just be like, I was like, okay, yeah, good. You got something? Yeah. See, and then like, okay, that's good. And then when they got older, I had so many problems with them, you know. And someone was me, and someone was they just didn't. But when I found this out, my son said to me, he said, the whole time, I wanted my daddy. And I was like, what? What?
That's what it was.
It's like it killed me.
Yeah.
I was like, what? He said the whole time.
Yes,
I just wanted my daddy. And I'm like, oh my God.
Temperamentally, behaviorally, we see the signs of
This
it.
child been acting crazy because he just wanted his father the whole time. And imagine wanting access to somebody that you see but can't have access to. That's got to be hard. And so that's why what you're doing is so important.
Yes.
Because my kids can say something to their daddy they ain't going to say to me. No matter what kind of relationship we got. And we got a good open relationship. But it's things they can say they did. I'm just not going to understand because I'm not a man.
Yeah.
And it makes a world of difference.
And I think that's the biggest thing. And I pointed to Xavier. But so we took what we call like a mission like drift with our organization because we primarily work with fathers that have kids.
So y'all pretty much counseling them. Y'all helping them in court.
Yeah.
Y'all.
So case management. They get case management. We provide comprehensive parenting services. We offer free mediation services if they are enrolled in the organization. Now, for those that don't know what a mediation conference look like, is that if you have someone that is considered a trained mediator or a court-appointed mediator, they're either one or two things. Either there's someone that don't hold a Juris Doctorate's degree, but they're a private mediator and they have their applicable charges or whatever. And then you have an attorney who is a mediator, but they practice law. They have a Juris Doctorate's degree. Typically, they cost a little more. But when you get free mediation conferences in Upstate Fatherhood Coalition, we will send mediation notices out to the mother of your child, the father of your child, to try to get both of you to the table. We help you arrange an agreement. We put it in a formal written agreement that you all can petition to the court and the judge can make the order of the court. We offer transportation. We have a suit and clothing closet.
Even transportation.
Yes. We have a new program called our Homes to Ownership program where we teach fathers how to move up the housing spectrum. We just launched about 4 years ago when he came on board a teen mail program. We kept getting so many calls from mothers saying we need it.
For real.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
We got so much.
Oh my goodness. Y'all got so much on y'all plate. I never knew this much stuff y'all was doing. Oh my goodness.
So he started the teen mail program as a facilitator. Yeah,
oh my goodness. It's so needed. For our young men, we losing them in these streets.
It's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot.
About time they really do something crazy and get in jail and realize, it's too late.
Yeah. When I relocated to South Carolina, to Anderson, I had attended like 21 vigils of teens that had been killed here in Anderson. And I've been here 8 years now. And that didn't even include the numbers of the ones I hadn't been in attendance for. But when Mr. Smith came on, I heard the work that he was already considering and wanting to do in the community around teen males. But when we kept getting that gripping call from mothers that were calling our office like, hey, do you guys provide mentorship? And I kept having to end the call with mothers literally crying. Jeez. Because they knew that they would likely either lose their kids to the system or to the streets. So we launched a program. It was 2 at the time. One was called Building Better Bridges. That was a strategic partnership with Department of Juvenile Justice in Anderson County. We served 25% of their population who would likely reoffend in Department of Juvenile Justice, which means that if they reoffended, some of them would reoffend, and their reoffense would not be classified as a juvenile, but because they were 17, it was classified as an adult. So DJJ, if they had a contract or a probation, would send them to us in a form of a contract, or a judge could court order them to our program in their probation order or whatever. And then we launched another one called Ready for Life. Ready for Life is the one that's still in place, where we serve young teens 14 to 19 in the community. And we host cohorts, 9-week cohorts that they go through, and we educate them about the responsibilities of fatherhood. It does not talk about, it's not anything sexual related. It talks about the responsibilities of a father, how much it costs to raise a child by year, and Xavier can give you the of how much it costs to raise a child from 1 year and from 0 to 18 years old. We have a whole curriculum.
Wow, Xavier, that's amazing.
Yeah. So when you think about it, for real, 0 to 1 year is literally almost 22,380. And when you're talking about 0 to 18, it's 320,856.
That's what my youngest son, he said, Mom, he had 3 kids and he was done. He said, Mom, because of the expense of what they cost, He said, "Ma, that's it." He said, he said, "That's it."
We not even talking about minimum wage, $7.25.
$7.25.
And especially for someone that can't keep up with, bills already, or keep up with any car expenses, or even any baby expenses. $7.25 ain't gonna get you but so far.
About $15,000 a year. Cost of living in the state of South Carolina is about $23,000 for one person. So if you're talking about 22,000 for one child a year.
Oh Lord!
Can you afford as a teen male or as a teen female to have a child at a young age? When they hear that in our curriculum,
because I did it. No.
When they hear that in our curriculum, they're like, "We're not ready for kids. We're not ready for it."
Glory to God.
Yeah. So.
Oh Lord! Because most young men, they get validations on the street and a pat on the back that you done graduated to be a man when you start getting girls pregnant, and how many babies you can have, and by the time they realize, after they have a whole bunch of time they realize, man, this comes with major responsibility. They trapped, and now they trying to figure out how, because it's hard to pay 4 or 5 child supports and then pay your rent, pay your water bill. Come on, and still take care of yourself too. That's major.
I remember it was a guy. I can't remember his name. He came and spoke to a graduation, and he was one of our keynote speakers. And he was like, it was something that stood out to me, man, and it kind of startled my spirit a little bit. And he was like, it's one thing to show up at a funeral and you see family and friends, but there's another thing that you don't see at a funeral, and that's a U-Haul, because that's tangible things. You can't take the car.
That's right.
You can't take the jewelry.
Sure can.
Can't take the earrings.
Nothing.
You taking yourself. Nothing. That's just what it is. So, the legacy behind it is when you leave this earth, like what people are actually going to see you for, who you are.
That's right. What are you really?
Who are you really?
Right. Because I remember the Lord spoke to me, this has been some years back. He said, "Sandra, don't let wisdom go to the ground." And I was like, huh? Don't let wisdom. I said, "Okay, God, what are you?" He said, tell them what you done went through. Tell them. He said, "Don't let it go to the ground." He said so much wisdom in the ground because they didn't tell their story, because they didn't help someone else that was going through the same thing. Don't be ashamed to tell what you came out of. That's your wisdom. That's wisdom. You made it out. You don't let wisdom go to the ground. When he explained it to me, I was like, "You're right, Lord." Look, that's why I like sitting. That's why I surround, just like my spiritual father's Bishop Scott King, Pastor Tara, but I have Apostle Watkins. I surround myself around people that can help elevate me. That I'm held accountable for what I do. Good counsel. I do that because I can't, if I'm only around the people that I'm teaching, I'm not going anywhere. I have to put people around me that can push me and elevate me further to the place to I keep growing. And so that's one thing I can see that's amazing with you all, because he can come to you. You can go to him, because iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
And y'all each other's safe place. And so even with us, we have a thing on Messenger, and we confess our stuff to each other, and we straight up about everything. We're like, okay, since I did, I said, all right, let's will it in. Okay, you did since, okay, you repented. Okay, God don't forget, you don't remember. Okay, now let's get this scripture and let's do this, and so we can, when you get ready to pass, when you get ready to take that test again, you'll pass. But guess what? You might fail it again, but eventually you're gonna pass. So, we have to, and everybody need that. Everybody needs someone to say, okay, all right, Okay, you fell off a little bit. Let's get up and keep it moving. It's all right.
Because you know what the essence of it is? It's a succession plan. Like in corporate America, in the public sector, private sector, like they talk, every place has what they call a succession plan. Who is someone that can be your successor when you leave? Who is someone that can be a part of the legacy that you've instilled? And I think oftentimes, you know, fathers have to look to that same regard. Like, if I'm gone from here, what are some of the teachings? What are some of the impartations that I've given and left for my child that can still speak for me even after I'm gone, and it not all be negative things? And so that's one of the biggest things that I've been intentional about in this type of work, that I literally want there to be, you know, an opportunity for a succession plan. Like I want him to be able to see me. Spiritually, it talks about, God was like, you know, good works that I do better. You should do greater. You should do greater. So that's the thing. I want them to understand every single time. Like, we have to come in and we have to be able to take it to another level. There has to be more fathers, more teen males that we can reach, more families that we can reunify and help reconcile their issues. And so the charge is always on them. Like, guys, y'all are from Anderson. I know y'all know. Relatives, friends, and that's how fathers have been showing up to our organization. We've been serving some fathers that are walking to our doors and they're like, hey, I got a cousin, I got a brother, I got an uncle that is dealing with the same thing. But now when you're dealing with systems, I told them when I went and I got my certificate in mediation, before I opened up my mediation firm, there was 3 things that I learned that was a consistent narrative in any particular. And I tell people, when you're dealing with systems don't care about 3 things. They don't care about how you feel. They don't care about how much money. Well, they don't care about how you feel or how you don't feel. They don't care about how much money you have and how much money you do have. And they don't care about how much time you have and how much time you don't have. It's do what I say, when I say, and where I say.
That's the truth.
Whether it's Department of Juvenile Justice, whether it's Department of Social Services, probation, whether it is the Judicial Circuit Court, all of that, probation, you do what I say when I say. And if they say you got to pay a fine, and by this time, if you don't have the money, you don't have a job. There's a way that they'll show that you are not in contempt and you are not in compliance. That you are in contempt and you're not in compliance. So I tell people all the time, like, if you want to steer clear from dealing with systems, this is an opportunity where you can take initiative, show up to a place, commit to it, double down, and get your family back. And don't let a system tell you what you got to do. But in the event you have to turn to a system, there is a likelihood that you can get exactly what it is that you want, because the way that the code of statutes are set up in any state, and particularly in the state of South Carolina, when you petition to the court and you got your things in order, I haven't seen in many cases, and I sit on a lot of court hearings and proceedings, that fathers don't get what they want. Most fathers keep narrating that this is a mother state. And I keep saying, no, it's not a mother state. It's not even a father state. It's a state for anybody who gets in the game or who levels the playing field.
That's it. That's it right there. So if you could say something, and I want you to do the same thing, to a father there's because I think y'all do so much more, not only just with kids, getting them to see their kids, but it's so much more y'all bring to their life. What would you like to say to them? What would you say to them? The first step is they need to come and understand they're not going to be judged, and because God meets us right where we at. Because a lot of times most men won't come because they feel like they're gonna be judged, or they feel like ain't what's the use? What's the point? It ain't costing them nothing, so hey. And who y'all are and what y'all bring by itself is a welcome mat. I mean, y'all are just who y'all are is a welcome mat. So what do they need to come to? What do they need to do? What could you tell them?
Well, first I'll say this, so I don't forget it. We are located here in Anderson, South Carolina at 100 Miracle Mile Drive.
Okay.
You hear the name?
Yeah, Miracle Mile.
Miracle Mile Drive.
Everything. God just
Miracle Mile Drive. And I tell people, it's where miracles truly do happen.
Amen.
We are located in Suite A. If For a point of reference, if you know where Regents Bank is, Logan's Road House, we literally sit in the brick building closest to the roadside, right in between the both of those businesses. But to any father that's watching this, I can imagine you may have stumbled across this live. Someone may have shared it with you, and you never thought for a minute that this would be a way that God would reach you, that this would be a resource. So I say to you honestly, in a transparent place, that if today was your last straw, if last month was your last straw, this is my charge to you to get back in the fight. You have everything in you to contend. You have everything to fight. And in the event you don't, we have what we call intercessors, people that are there to stand in the gap for you. And oftentimes that's the proving ground enough that if you are weak, you have strong people that you can lean on until you get the strength that you need to be able to fight. So I'm imploring you, whoever you are, if you're in Anderson County, or if you're in the upstate region, you're in Greenville, you're in Spartanburg, contact me. I can literally connect you to those offices so that at the end of the day, you can get your daughter back, you can get your son back, you can fight for that healthy relationship, co-parenting, even if romantically it won't work, and platonically y'all understand you're going to need to be friends and you need to make it work. Why? Because it's for two reasons. It's for the best interest of that child, and it's for the welfare of that child. And if we stop and we think for 1 minute, what if the purpose, the plans, and the promises that God told me about, that he had for me, is the same purpose plan that God has for your son and your daughter to do bigger things. And it's all based upon you getting back in the fight and you showing up. So I encourage you, like, come find me out. And if you want to know what an advocate is for fathers, I can guarantee you, myself, Mr. Smith, my other staff that are in my office will advocate for you at all fronts. If you're a mother and you're watching this, I speak to your heart, because I understand the essence of our work is dealing with the heart of the man. But I understand we've got to have that cooperation from a mother that's doing it by herself. Evidence actually states, Ms. Sandra, that fathers that do not provide supplemental support and assistance to mothers, single mothers, force over 50% of mothers into impoverished situation. Perhaps life is hard because the enemy has allowed you to believe for 1 minute that you can do it by yourself. Okay. And you've attached yourself to this relational style in thinking that I can be independent. But I'm going to tell you this, because this is research. Glory to God. No child benefits from a one-parent home. Bring your family together for the best interest of welfare of your child. So if you're a mother and you want to make it work, even if you want a mediation conference, I will happily. I normally charge $500 an hour for anybody that's not enrolled in Upstate Fatherhood Coalition. My private mediation fees are $500 an hour to establish a visitation agreement around visitation. That's $1,500 split between both parties. But if any mother or father that is willing to come into agreement, I will write a formal written agreement for y'all to petition the court and make it a law-binding order. So now you don't have to move off your own word. You don't have to move off his own word. Now it's a law-binding thing. So now both of you have the accountability and the responsibility to steward that agreement to the time that child turns 18. Glory to God. And all you have to do is say, you watch this video from the mud to the mansion. Amen. And I will literally find out the time. But if you decide you want to enroll in the organization, in the program, because you need those parenting, you need those classes, you get it free of charge. But any other time it's $500 an hour. But that's how much I do, because I understand when we talk about kingdom building, we talk about speaking to our nation, there's somebody here that we get an opportunity to gravitate. That's right. Gravitate. That's right. So that's my open invitation.
Yeah, I'm keeping mine short, but thank you again. You're welcome for giving us the opportunity to be here. And I will say to the fathers out here, mothers too as well, don't just be the father, don't just be the mother. Be the best father, be the best mothers, and show up. That's what we ask of you. And I will say, as a lead case manager, with the Upstate Fatherhood Coalition, we want this to be a space for you to seek that innovation instead of separation. So we want you to be a part of something that's going to create a lifetime achievement and milestone for you. But we also want to see you at your best. So if it's anything out there that's kind of steering you away or kind of putting you behind and making you feel like you're not worth anything, definitely come see us at the Upstate Fatherhood Coalition. We'll take care of it.
Would you give a charge to like the teen males, because I know that's where you initially started at, but like for any of them that might be watching,
any teen males, I will say any teen males that's watching, any mothers, fathers again that's out there, for your teen males, if you want to get connected with us, we not only just mentors, we do have a Ready for Life program. Also, I will do mentoring. On my behalf too, for my business.
How old?
Kind mentor.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I didn't know that. How old they have to be?
For our Ready for Life program, they have to be 14 through 19.
Okay.
For kind mentoring, my personal business, 10 through 19. So, again, any teen males that's out here that's needing that promising intervention,
I got one for you.
They need somebody to just step up to the place and be in that community fathering role, or if they just need any type of assistance or help, man. Please reach out to us, or please reach out to me. And yeah.
Surely is. We got a couple of them for you, about 3. Sure do. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I send them to you. Sure will. Yeah. This was an amazing session. It was a privilege and honor to have y'all here today. It's truly God. And I thank God He ordered our steps.
Yes.
This is truly for Him. And I decree that the angels of God would take this information throughout the airwaves, and that it would your work will go throughout the nation. I decree that to be so in Jesus' name. The work, and God will continue to do a good work in y'all, and y'all continue to run for Him. And I decree that everything y'all need come financially, the workers, everything y'all need will come in Jesus' name. I decree that to be so. I speak that over y'all lives, and it is so. It is done. Thank y'all for tuning in for Mud to the Mansion. This is one of the best sessions I've had, because I'm gonna tell you why. When you pray for something for years and see a manifestation of your prayers, it's just amazing. Because I always feel like, because I got 3 sons, God, it's lost. They don't have no help. And even though us as women, we can speak to them, they can see it, we can talk to them, but it's not the same voice as a man. And so I hope you really, really know how important what y'all doing is to our community, to our society, to our families, to homes, to our nation. And I asked God, I said, how do you win? How do you win a dying world? He said, by one random act of kindness at a time. And every time you're pouring into a dad, you're pouring into their children, you're pouring into a family. So thank y'all so much for what you do. I really appreciate you. Y'all are answered prayer, for real, from my heart. We thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all got all the information. Share, tag, let everybody see the video. God bless you. We thank you for tuning in to Mud to the Mansion. We'll see you next week with Pastor V. Williams. She'll be on here next week. We'll be dealing with all kinds of stuff, marriage, whatever she want to talk about. So,